everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for Pilates All Levels. My name is Audra, and as always, listen to your body. Don't do anything that doesn't feel right. Feel free to modify or even ask questions. Today we're mixing it up. We're going to have our ball, yes, but also a couple of yoga blocks. So if you're at home and you don't have yoga blocks, you don't have to use them. You can use a couple pillows or just ditch them entirely. We're actually going to begin standing. So go ahead and come all the way up. We're going to work a little bit of balance to begin. So first I want you to think about spreading your toes wide and just gently gripping the floor with your arch as opposed to clinging to the floor with your toes. And just kind of shift your weight forward and back a couple times. Now, balance is really cool because it incorporates so many different systems in your body. So with this first one, we're just going to lift a foot and see how your balance feels. Now, if you're on the mat, it's a little bit of an extra challenge because it's a wobblier surface. We're just holding and seeing. Now, if you want to change it up, just close your eyes and see how that feels. So we've just taken our ocular system out of it, right? And then other side. So just step your feet down, widen, and lift. So a lot of times, balance, yes, does come from like our neuromuscular system, right? Our muscular system. But a lot of times it can also come from proprioception, vestibular, or ocular. So we're going to do a couple little things and then try our balance again and see how it feels. So go ahead and just breathe. You can even round your back a little bit, hug yourself. I want you to try to breathe into the sides and backs of your ribs. And exhale from the front. So we're trying to inflate without force. Two more breaths. And as you're rounding and looking at your toes, think about when we're coming into our chest lifts, this is kind of the position that we're looking for, right? We're not pulling our head forward. We're just letting it sit right on top. Now go ahead and reach down. We're going to use our fingers. We're just going to tap our ankles, calves, quads, working up your legs, just giving our body a little feedback. You can work to your hips, your front. I know it seems ridiculous, but we're gonna, and then your arms. So we're just trying to give ourselves a little bit more proprioceptive input, right? Good. And then we're going to add our vestibular and ocular system. So bring one finger forward. Don't stop looking at your finger, okay? Keep your finger right where it is. Don't stop looking at it. Turn your head. Keep looking at your finger. Turn your head the opposite way. Keep looking at your finger. Back and forth a couple of times. Now, if you'd like to challenge yourself more, lift a foot. Back and forth. And two. And then switch fingers, switch feet. Same thing, keep looking at the finger. Don't move the finger with your face. I didn't see anything, right? And one side might be easier than the other. Two more. Now, we're just going to switch fingers, switch feet, but instead of turning our head, we're now keeping our head perfectly still, and we are watching our finger as it moves. And maybe you tap a toe down, maybe you keep both feet down. Couple more, and then we switch fingers, switch feet. Last one like this, still trying to keep your face perfectly still. Don't follow the finger with your face, just your eyes. And then switch. Just follow the finger with your eyes. Couple more. Make sure you're breathing. If you need to, tap that toe down. Last one. Come back to the center, both feet down. Now, this we're going to do with our eyes closed. Just drop your head to one side, nod your chin, slowly drop your ear to the other side, head back. Two more like this. And you can start bringing a little bit of shoulder and thoracic spine movement. Move as slowly as possible to make sure that you don't get super dizzy. And then other side, or other direction rather. And feel how your whole spine responds to the movement of your head. Feel how your feet respond to the movement of your head. Last one. Come back to center. Good. Now just to check, we're lifting one foot, closing our eyes. See how that feels different than it did at the beginning. And then other side. It's a little easier, right? If it was really hard before, it still might be kind of hard. Couple more breaths. Good. All right, feet together, nod your chin. We're rolling all the way down. And we're coming down to the ground. Go ahead. Grab your yoga blocks. We're going to put one in between our knees and one in our hands. So with this, I'm gonna go to a couple different angles. Think about your pinky finger side more than your thumb side. So shoulders draw down. Think of reaching forward slightly with that pinky. And then as you squeeze, almost like you're trying to rotate your upper arm bone slightly. Now, squeeze the block, press your feet into the ground, curl yourself back just a little bit. Good. Hold here, squeeze the block, lift the block, and then dive forward. And restack. Good. Let's do a few more. Yeah, already. Good morning. Good. Curl and hold. We can think about that block lifting, and then we dive forward. Restack. Now, as we do this, when we decide to hold it back, if you need the prop ball behind you, that's fine. Good. Keep squeezing the block. Let's actually try two more in different ways. So this way, we're going to kind of ignore the block. We're just limply holding it. Same with the other block. I don't know about for you guys, but for me, it's easier, but then it's harder on my hip flexors, right? So think about squeezing both. Keep that innervation, that isometric squeeze. Hold it. And then keep the squeeze of the block. Yeah. And then dive forward. Good. Now, if you need the ball behind you, great. Otherwise, we're going to hold it back. Hold. And then keep the squeeze of the block. Bring it behind your head. Press your head into the block and the block into your head. Hold. Anybody else just start trembling immediately? Yeah. And then we can rotate a little bit to one side and back, rotate the other way. If this doesn't feel okay on your back, come up. You can also, once again, use the ball behind you. Good. Speaking of spicy, right? Yeah. We're trying to get our lats and serratus on. We're still keeping our cervical flexors on, right? Couple more. Inner thighs as well. Come back to center, hands forward, roll back. Yeah. Now, if you were using the ball, move it out of the way for now. If you weren't, great. We're gonna reach the fingertips forward, roll back a few inches. Hold, inhale. Exhale, curl back a couple more inches, hold. Inhale, curl back a couple more inches. And a couple more, until you make your way all the way to the ground. Now, we're gonna use the blocks for our hands. So go ahead, bring your hands onto the yoga blocks, making sure your feet are pointing forward. Now, if your shoulders like to internally rotate, start with your palms up, opening your collarbones, and then without moving your upper arm, flip your palms to face each other. And then if that feels good, you can flip your palms down. Toes pointing forward, kind of close to your hips. Inhale, exhale, come into your imprint gently. And then press your feet into the ground, press your hands into the blocks, and come up into your first bridge. Notice how pressing your hands into the blocks allows your triceps to help you more, yeah? Inhale into the back of your body, and then melt from your throat, your sternum, your ribs, your low back, all the way until your sacrum comes to neutral. Let's do a couple more. When you peel up, initiate from your abs. And then as you lift, still keep those abs helping you. Press down into your big toe mound so the whole back line of your body helps. At the top, check in, right? If you are lifting from your shoulders or your weight is on your neck, hollow out some by allowing your throat to open and relax away from your face, and then roll all the way down. 2 more. It's okay to allow your triceps to help you. And melt and roll. Last one like this. We're gonna hold this up, hold. Now, pay attention to your triceps. Pay attention to your lats and your side glutes, okay? So press into your left foot, right hand, float your right leg up. Bring your right leg down. Press your right foot actively into the ground as you press your left hand into the block. And back and forth. Trying to keep your hips still and stable. So if one of your hips hikes or drops, be aware of it without judgment, right? And think about your breath. And a lot of times we tend to want to overcorrect, right? So my left side hikes and wants to drop. So I tend to really want to reach long through it. Instead of the overcorrecting that often happens, think about your sits bones, right? So if one side hikes, instead of thinking of your hip, think of your sit bone reaching farther, right? We get one more each side. Don't forget to actively push into the floor. Last one, melt and roll all the way down. Go ahead, sway your knees to one side and then the other side. Come back to center, and you can either put the block or the ball in between your knees. Interlace your hands behind your head and let your elbows be super wide. Let them fall onto the ground. Now, just for fun, keeping those elbows wide without being able to see them, come into your chest lift. And then come back down. That was probably kind of tricky. Now, let's squeeze our shoulder blades together keep the squeeze and try to come into that chest lift. It's almost impossible, right? Yeah, because we retracted our scapula. So bring your elbows into your periphery. Think of spiraling your elbows forward. Shoulder blades melt down your back. Now, keeping that protraction, curl forward. Oh, it's so much easier, isn't it? Bring your hands forward, push them into an imaginary surface, and then bring them back behind your head. Now, feel your shoulder blades underneath you. I want it to be the bottom tip, not the full shoulder blade, okay? Now, it's not a big rotation to start. Just hover one of your shoulder blades off the ground barely without putting more weight onto the other. Bring it back, other side. It's tempting to try to do it from the shoulder, right? But we are keeping our shoulders stationary and just barely hovering. Anybody else start trembling as soon as they start that hover? Yeah, it's because we're not often this controlled with it, right? 2 more, which equates to 1 more each side. And then head comes down. 1 hand comes by our side. As we lift up, slide those fingertips away from us. Now keep that hand still, rotating through your sternum. Look at the hand. Yeah. And then you can come back down. And again, lift, rotate, keeping the opposite hip down and back. So the reason we're keeping our hands still here is if it continues to move, we're actually side bending as opposed to just rotating, which isn't bad. It's just different. Good. 2 more. Lovely. Last one like this. Then we get to switch sides. So once again, we are spiraling that elbow forward. We're curling, and then we rotate back and down. Trying to maintain a neutral pelvis if you can, which just means we're not imprinting immediately, right? Two more. Last one. Come back to center. Go ahead, grab your block. We're gonna do some roll-ups. So if you need a prop or you need to keep your knees bent, it's okay. So first, as your hands come overhead, imagine that block is really heavy and you're resisting gravity from your abs, not your pecs. And then squeeze the block a little bit with those, like that spiraling of your armpits. Bring your fingertips forward, lift and roll forward. Good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now we're going to press down and restack. Now you have one of those gardening pads. If your feet want to come up or your back feels sticky, see what Nancy has done there. She's just put it behind her lower back. That's a really nice way to give you something else to kind of sink into. Yeah. Good, yeah. And then as we do this, think about starting in neutral and then imprinting. Because if we imprint too fast, we have nowhere to go. Whereas if we imprint on the way up, and we're gonna restack. Good, yeah, much easier. Now, if, for example, you have a tight TFL, right? That front corner of your pocket is tight, widen your feet a little bit and see if that makes those roll-ups a little easier. Good. We're restacking in between. Last two. And the last one like this. So full roll up and roll down. Think about curling forward as opposed to up. We're restacking that spine and then rounding and rolling. Now, when you've arrived back down, you can set the block to the side. Now your legs are extended and we're going to use the floor as a prop. So without squeezing your glutes so much, I just want you to press one heel into the ground as if you're trying to drag that leg behind you. And then other side. So the glute can respond. I just don't want you to actively squeeze it to initiate. Last one. Now interlace your hands behind your head, spiraling your elbows forward. As we do this, if it is not comfortable to have in your back to have both of your legs extended, you may bend a leg and put that foot on the floor. Otherwise, come into your chest lift, hold. We're gonna push one foot away from us as if it's against a wall, push it away, and then imagine taking half a pound of the weight out of it. That's it. And then back down, other side. Push, and then take half a pound of the weight out. Now, just for fun, let's try, instead of pushing away and taking half a pound of the weight out, think of just lifting the leg. And then think of lifting the leg. See how all of a sudden it's different muscles wanting to help? Yeah. So we're still looking forward, so push the leg away and just take half a pound of the workout and then push it away. Good. Now, we're just barely hovering. Your calf muscles might not even lift off the ground. Good. One more, each side. Now, if this feels good to you, you can add on. So inner thighs zip together. Find that deep abdominal connection. Push both feet away and maybe take half a pound out of those legs. Maybe they hover, maybe they don't. And again, Nancy, think about hollowing out from the front, just, yeah. And then you can try it again. If that doesn't feel great in your back, keep doing one leg at a time. Once again, we're not just straightening our leg more. It is a squeeze of the inner thigh. It is a hover from here. Good. One more. Looking forward at your toes instead of at the sky. And then head comes down. Nice job, you guys. Go ahead, bend one leg at a time. We're gonna make a little triangle shape and slide it underneath our sacrum. So framing that triangular bone in between your cheeks. Bring one leg to tabletop, other leg comes to meet it. Squeeze your inner thighs together as if you were trying to pop a balloon. Now, tap one toe towards the ground. Exhale, hug that knee back. Other side. So we're starting with a little tap. Don't worry, we will absolutely make it more challenging. Now, this is where you are, great. If you'd like, instead, switch your legs midair. And feel what's happening to your fingers and thumbs, right? So in an ideal world, we're going to keep our weight at the webbing of the thumb without crushing our fingers, right? If you need to bias towards a posterior tilt here, that's okay. Keep a little bit more pressure on the thumb. Now, if you'd like more challenge, squeeze your inner thighs together. Slowly start to let both legs go away from your face, hover above the floor, inhale wide, exhale, sink your belly button down, let the knees come along for the ride. And again. You are welcome, always, 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 to shorten your lever in order to help keep some of the tension off your hip flexors. So maybe down here is fine, but on the way up, you need to hug your heels in more, or you can just keep hugging your heels towards your hips to get that hamstring to do a little bit more work than your quad. 2 more. Last one. Now, all we're going to do is straighten one leg. Exact same thing. Keep hugging those knees together. And then switch. Right? So we're just loading it a little bit differently. Now, if that's where you are, great. If you'd like more challenge, switch, but bring that straight leg towards your foot and slowly lower it down farther. And then flex and bring it up. And then reach it farther down towards the ground. And then back up, and then switch, right? So it's towards the foot as opposed to at the knee. So you have to use your core as that lever is lengthened and lowered a little. Yeah. Good. Last one. Now hug both your knees in towards your chest. Gently rock from side to side. And extend both of your legs up towards the sky. If that means your knees need to bend some, that's okay. Hands behind your head, come into your chest lift. Good. Now, slowly reach one leg down towards the ground. Keep it there. Hands behind your other thigh. Use your arms to help bring that thigh a little closer to you. Now, inhale, exhale, let go. See if you can use your abs here to help. Hands back behind your head, switch legs. Good. Now, hands. Use your hands to help get a little bit more either height for your chest or hamstring stretch. Inhale, exhale, let go, hands back behind your head. Then reach down. Good. Bring it in. Hold. And then switch. Bring it in. Hold. Good. Everybody feeling their abs kick on more as they pull the leg in? Yeah. Last one. And then bend both knees to tabletop. Good. We're going to press one leg out, rotate towards the other leg. Hold. Inhale. Exhale, slowly rotate towards that other side, switching your legs. Inhale. Exhale, switch. Good. Now, if you'd like, you can straighten that leg. If all of a sudden your pelvis is shifting or you're starting to tremble because you can't get your leg straight, come back to crisscross instead. Crisscross is awesome. Good. Almost there. One more each side. And then come back to center. Head comes down for a second. And then come back into your chest lift. Press your feet into an imaginary surface. Now inhale. Exhale, imagine pushing them into a wall. Your feet are going to start to go away from you. They do not need to straighten. Legs don't have to straighten here. And then fold them in. Good. And again, reach them away. They don't need to straighten. And then let them fold. Now, find your end range that you just found. Hold. Inhale. See if you can sneak them a couple inches farther away and then let them fold in. If all of a sudden that didn't feel good on the back, don't go farther. If your neck is getting tired and you need to put your head down, that's okay. In fact, that's great. Just really focus on letting your diaphragm lower, your ribs expand, because that's going to help your body naturally stabilize. One more. Hug your knees in, gently rock from side to side. Good. Bring your feet down. We're going to cross one leg over the other. Arms out to the side. Now let your knees start to go the direction that that toe is pointed. You're going to look at your opposite hand. And it's not about going into a big range of motion here. I'd actually prefer you to keep it a little bit smaller and lengthen that hip away from your face rather than arching. Bring your attention to your waistline, and on your next exhale, drag your legs back from your waistline. And then again, let those knees go, look to the opposite. One more. And then other side. So switch legs and just let them start to go. Once again, if you start arching, see about that hip lengthening away from your face rather than hiking. And then as you exhale, bring your attention to your waistline to bring you back. Couple more here. Almost there. Last one. Come back to center. Go ahead, bring your arms down to your side. Reach your fingertips away, and we're just gonna start pumping our arms a little bit. And just notice what your ribs and hips are doing, right? So if they're moving with the arms, I need you to try to breathe a little wider and lower and use your inhale to help stabilize, right? Keeping intra-abdominal pressure. And as you exhale, exhale evenly. Now, if you're like, cool, I got this. I want harder hundreds. Fantastic. Come into your chest lift. Feel like, yeah, I could really use a little less support. Bring those feet up. If you really want to reach those legs away from you, also great. We're gonna inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Last set. Good. Bring those knees back to center, head comes down. Now, if you'd like more challenge here, you can grab your prop, hug it between your hands. Otherwise, arms can come out to the side. We're gonna squeeze those knees together, let one hip lift, other hip lowers, and we hold, keeping both shoulders on the ground. And then drag it back. When you get to where you're like, oh, I'm gonna arch, pause, reset, squeeze the block if you are, and then back. The squeezing of the block should theoretically help you connect a little bit more to those obliques, keeping your fingertips towards the sky as opposed to going the opposite direction of the legs. Hold this one, tap one of your toes down. If you can, bring it back, back to center. Other side, we hold, tap that toe down, back, bring it back to center. Now that you know what we're doing, see where you want to go with that, right? Maybe you want to go pretty far. Maybe you don't. Couple more. Hey, Nancy, don't let your hands move. Keep your hands still. Good, yeah. Keep squeezing the block when they want to move. Is that more exciting? Yeah. Huh? One more each side. Everyone feeling those obliques a little? Yeah. Other side, once again, we are trying to push more with that pinky finger and serratus side. Good. Bring the legs together. And we're just going to put that prop on our shins. Hands behind our head. And this is more just for information. Now, if this is too easy, you can always bring it in between your feet as we slide our feet away from us and then slide them back. Good. 2 more. Good. Nice job, everybody. Last one. Go ahead, bring the legs down after you've extended them. We're doing one more roll up to get up. Nice job. Yeah. Go ahead and come into a cross-legged position for me. Now, if this is uncomfortable, you can always use one of the blocks to sit a little higher. Yeah. You guys look scared. Don't be scared. We're just going to rotate our spine a little bit. Now, just for fun, think about your shoulders, okay? So bring both shoulders forward and try to, with this, rotate to one side. Kind of gets you stuck, huh? Then the other side. Now, think of really retracting both of your shoulders and rotate. You can get a little bit more, but it's still kind of getting stuck, right? That's because our protractors and retractors help us rotate. So we're going to rotate to the right, hold. Think about squeezing your right shoulder blade back. That's it. And notice how all of a sudden you can rotate a little farther. And then come back. Other side. And then hold. Just think about squeezing your left shoulder blade back a little. Now this time, rotate, hold. Just think about your left shoulder coming forward a little bit more. All of a sudden you can rotate a little deeper without even thinking about it. And other side, rotate, right shoulder forward. Now we're going to put it together. Rotate, squeeze and reach. Good, rotate, squeeze and reach. Trying to keep this mostly in your thoracic spine, right? So that rib cage spine, as opposed to lumbar. It's not bad to rotate through your lumbar. However, our lumbar spine should only get about 10 to 15 degrees of rotation, whereas that thoracic should be able to get about 40. Good. Nice job. We're coming onto all fours. Now, if you'd like a little bit more challenge, we're just going to use the block on our lower back. Now, it's for information purposes only, right? Now, think about lengthening through the crown of your head. If you need to be on your fists, that's fine. And I personally prefer my hands on the floor as opposed to the squishy mat. Making sure you're pushing a little bit more through your big, not your big toe, the big toe of your hand, your pointer finger mound. Push the floor away and almost think of pulling your hands away from each other. Slide one foot out and then slowly bring it back. Other side. Now, all the prop does is give you information as to what's happening, right? Maybe one of your hips wants to drop. Maybe one of your hips wants to hike. Now, if this feels good and you'd like to stay here, great. If you'd like a little bit more of a challenge, we're going to take it into a plank. I would just stay here for now if you want. So we're going to reach one foot out, other foot out, and then we bend one knee underneath us, and then other side. Back and forth. 2 more. Last 1. Good. Knees down. Press yourselves into a rest position. Hands are going to come up and over to one side. Press your hips away. And then other side. Coming back to center. Get rid of the prop on your back. If you need to come onto your forearms, you can. You can also prop your forearms on the blocks so you have a little bit more height. We're going to come back into a plank. Now, especially if you're on the blocks, I really want you to push your elbows into the ground, lifting your ribs. Slide one foot at a time out behind you. Good. Now, keep your plank, tap your knees down, and then press your heels away, lifting back. Yeah, keep your plank, just tap, keep your plank, lift. Good, that looks great. Good. 3, 2 more. Last one, hold. Now then you tap one knee down, let your hips rotate slightly, bring it back. One knee, rotate the other way. Keep pressing the floor away, right? Otherwise, we'll sink into that shoulder and slide that hip out. So we want to push and lift. One more each side. Last one. Knees down. Press yourself into a rest position. Those are sneaky, aren't they? Yeah. Come out onto your side. Now we have so many props today. We're going to use the ball as a pillow. We're going to keep one of the blocks near us. And we're definitely using the other block. So we're going to bring our feet on top of one of the blocks. Yeah. And then head down on the pillow. Now, if you tend to sink into your ribs and it's really hard to get out of that, you can always slide a gardening pad underneath your ribs. But I want you to think about lengthening that top hip away, lifting your bottom rib. So you're using your bottom oblique. Imagine that you have hot coals under your rib. Yeah, exactly like that. Now, think about this top hip, reach it forward. Good. Sticking your booty out a little bit. Squeeze your heels together, start to lift one knee, don't let your hips move. And then slowly lower. Stick your butt out a little, Nance. Keep them right there, but lift up, yep. Yeah, right there. Good. So if you can get your knee pretty high, that's great, but it's more about spiraling that thigh bone in the socket to find that glute. Good. Couple more, how's that feeling? Good. You can also, on the way down, think of having like a giant sponge in between your knees, and you want to wring all that water out by pushing into that sponge. 2 more. Last one. And all we're going to do is bring both feet onto the ground. And if you'd like more excitement, we're going to use the block to challenge us. We'll bring it onto that foot and ankle lengthwise. Now, we have just abducted, right? So keep your knee in alignment with your hips and push the foot away. Now, if the block falls, that's okay. It's just information, right? And then bring it in. Now, you might be like, what information is that? Well, several things. For example, on my other side, I really have a hard time because my foot wants to rotate, right? Or my knee wants to internally rotate. So it's telling us if we're internally rotating or externally rotating from that foot, right? So trying to keep that knee and foot alignment can be challenging. And that's one of the things that the block does. Okay, we have 3. Pushing the foot so far away that it helps lift our ribs a little. Good. 2. Last one like this. And extend. Now hold that leg, and all we're going to do is let it hinge forward some, and then hinge back. On the way back especially, I want you to try to separate out that foot movement from your spine. On the way forward as well, but typically we tend to be more likely to arch our back to try to get our foot behind us. And what we're trying to do is maintain a stable neutral spine and differentiate between hip movement and spine movement, which means we're just trying to move that thigh freely in the socket without our spine having to come along for the ride. 2. Nice job. Last one, hold it most of the way out. Now paintbrush that foot up some without dropping the block. Squeegee it down. Yeah. It kind of cuts the range a little bit, right? Good. 2 more. You're pushing away more than up. Oh, last one. And we get to do that other side. Was that easier or harder than you guys thought it was going to be? Yeah, same. Go ahead, bring your feet onto the block. We're going to start with some clamshells. So sticking your tail feathers back, lengthening through that front or top hip, lifting your bottom ribs, and then top knee goes forward slightly. Squeeze your heels together and just think of the thigh bone rotating in the socket. If you open your hips up to the sky, try to keep them pointed forward and then slowly lower. Good. And so also just start to notice, stick your booty out. Yep. Where do you feel more glute there when you do that? Yeah. So notice where you're starting to feel the work, right? If you feel it in the front corner of your hips, but you're not moving your hips or tucking, it could indicate that maybe that muscle is tight and just not allowing that eccentric motion. Or it could mean that it's neurologically dominant and you're accidentally going into positions that can cause it to do more work. 2 more. It's just information. Last one. And then we can move that out of the way. And if you're ready to try on this side, this might be your easier side. Or if you're me, it might be your harder side, right? We're just going to start pressing that foot away, reaching it away, and then let it fold in. Good. And reach. Good. Hey, Nancy, if you bring your foot down a little, yeah. Oh, that's all right, yeah. And reach slow. Good. Trying to keep your knee even. Like say you've got a tray of coffee on your knee and you want to serve that tray of coffee to a friend. It's a party trick, I don't know. 2 more. Last one like this, we get to hold it out. Reach, reach, reach. And then we brush that foot forward, hinging at the hip. Brush that foot back, hinging at the hip, not letting our ribs or hips respond. Once again, if the first one happens, just be aware from then on, right? First one doesn't count. And reach it away. If you're not sure, put your hand so you can feel your hip and feel if that hip starts pushing into that hand on the way forward, right? See if it lengthens away from your face. 2 more. How's everybody's glutes feeling? Great? Yeah. Last one. Take it away from you. Push it so far away, it helps leverage you up. And we just start to barely paintbrush up that wall and back down. And again. 2 more. Nice job, everybody. Last one. All right, we're gonna come onto our stomachs. And everybody's proportions are different. If you happen to have a little bit more flesh in front of you, maybe you wanna bring your head onto the block. And if you're like, I can't tell, if you feel like you're having to dangle, just try the block underneath your forehead and see how it feels. Maybe it feels great. Yeah. Good. Now, think about suction cupping your hands to the ground and drag them down as if you're doing a lat pull. Now push your hands and elbows into the ground to spiral your collarbones forward. Small, tiny little back extension. Think of almost dragging your elbows down to lengthen you forward. Inhale, exhale, hover your hands, and then come down. If when you went to hover your hands, you felt your whole back engage, keep it a little smaller next time. So we're gonna push to lift. Inhale, exhale, float. We're trying to bypass our erectors to start and get our little stabilizers. One more like this. And lift and back down. Now, if that felt great and you'd like more challenge, push into the ground, lift, hold, inhale, exhale, just think about getting your legs a little higher and then back down. And again, press to start, lift, hover, and then just think about getting your legs a little higher. Last one like this, press. Good. Now bring your hands forward, shoulder blades draw down your back. And you're just going to start to swim your legs. That's it. Just feel what your body wants to do, right? If you need your head down, that's okay. Good. A couple more breaths. And then legs down, flip your palms to face each other. Think about the bottom tips of your shoulder blades initiating a rotation as you allow one thumb to come up. Other side. And this also just gives you a little bit of feedback as opposed to what your shoulders and ribs are wanting to do. Now, you can either suction cup your hands to the ground, float one arm, opposite leg up, other side, or you can swim by hovering everything. Inhale, exhale. One more. Hands down, press yourselves into a rest position. Hands come up and over to one side. And then other side. We're gonna come all the way to standing. So however you need to, but if you can come through a downward dog and press yourself into that kind of like triangle position, great. And then walk your hands towards your feet a little bit so your weight is over your feet. Bend one knee, take your up or the same side hand as bent leg and take it to that other ankle so you can rotate slightly and then switch. One more each side. And then we roll up. Come back to center. Roll all the way up and get one of your yoga blocks. Now, if your feet are really long, you can flip them going to stand on one foot. So yeah, you can always hold on to something. And if this feels way too unstable, please hold on to something, right? Now, you've got one toe down. Good. And just feel where your hips are, right? So think about the back corner squeezing forward slightly. We're not going into a big tuck. We're just coming into gentle hip extension on that standing leg. Find that inner thigh, flex your other foot. Yeah, good. Now, if this is where you are, fantastic, stay there. If you would like more challenge, without bending your knees, try to slide that foot down to the ground and up. So we're moving from our hips as opposed to the knees or the ankle. And I'll show it like here too. It's a little tricky at first, right? But you just lower that hip and then lift it back. Yeah. Maybe you go down half an inch. Good. Nice. Imagine how much harder this would have been had we not done that stuff at the beginning of class, right? Good. And then you hold, just hold. Just feel what's helping you here. Hopefully it's some glute and inner thigh, maybe a little bit of foot, right? And then other side. So just keep the toe down to start, finding that little bit of active hip extension, right? And then just flex that foot, see where you are. Yeah. And maybe this is where you are. It's fine, it's great. Maybe you slide that foot down from the spine as opposed to from the ankle, right? Good. Yeah. Couple more. Beautiful. 3, 2. Last one, and we get to hold and breathe. Nice job. Lovely. Go ahead, bring both feet down. We're just ending with a roll down. So find where your setup is, right? Find where your knees and ankles, hips, ribs, and shoulders are, right? Nod your chin, hollow out from the front, roll all the way down as if you're coming up and over a barrel. Making sure your weight stays center here if you can, as opposed to only having it in your heels. Inhale wide, scoop, and roll it all the way back up. Bring your shoulders to your ears, drop them straight down, and give yourselves a round of applause. Nice work today. Thank you so much for joining me. Awesome work today, you guys.